Oh, it's the usual story. It's jolly chilly outside. I'll put the heating on for a quarter of an hour. It's too warm in here again. Oh, lucky old me, eh? Why is there suffering in the world? Well, indeed. Why didn't God just leave us, as it were, in the Garden of Eden, as in the first book in the Bible, Genesis, and, let us gamble about gaily in all beautiful peace and love and sweetness and happiness and light? Well, curiously, it's a rhetorical question. I have the answer. I splashed out, I treated myself with these little cigars. I prefer my old ordinary ones, actually. Anyway. I'm not a smoker and I don't inhale, and it does help me think as part of my morning routine. Basically, listening to beautiful music. These are the Carthusian monks at La Grande Chartreuse en France, dans les montagnes, in the mountains, and they do this every day. It's called vigils. I know it's about 51 minutes, I think, the whole thing. Right, why is there suffering? Well, now, yes, I'd say I've got the answer, but I don't want to be trite about it, thank you very much. There's monstrous suffering in this world. Always has been, quite frankly. How come? 2,000 years, Christ came. Why isn't it all sorted? Monstrous suffering. Ludicrous. On all sorts of levels. And suffering isn't just what you see on the surface, i.e. a physical disability. I mean, it's psychological, mental, spiritual, for heaven's sake. There's this classic image. I love St. Francis of Assisi, so I was out there in middle northwest of Italy, by Assisi, in Perugia, in fact, which is the sort of county town of Umbria, and there's a small chapel which is beautifully built. The Italians really do architecture. I mean, they just leave, well, as far as I'm concerned, the rest of the world in a cocked hat. None of your blooming run-up quick modern concrete and steel and glass things. Beautiful stone. Anyway, there's a very large picture, as big as my whole wall here, quite frankly. And it's the classic image. See, these little ones go out. You've got to keep at them, and they're jolly expensive too, relatively. Never mind, I treated myself on May Day, yesterday, today being Sunday, of course, the 2nd of May, and I'm alive, just, as it were. So today's the only day we have. Yesterday's gone, tomorrow hasn't happened. This classic image is a sort of Christ-like figure, a saint or whatever, not Christ, but pierced by arrows, with blood coming out and all the rest of it. It's a great big, I think it's done on wood actually, which must require specialist painting techniques. But the image is a human being being pierced by the arrows of evil. I think that's you see. So that's the sort of juxtaposition in the world between good and evil. I'm not a child, I'm 64 years old. The simple answer is, okay, and this is how I put it. Nice puff. Right. In the Garden of Eden, everything was sweetness and light, hunky-dory, innocence, right? Now, to get to know God, we have to somehow, human beings experience things, hopefully through the ultimate triumph of good, overcoming evil. One's own human experience comes closer to a knowledge of God. It's in the Lord's Prayer, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed. Deliver us from evil. It's in the Lord's Prayer. But you see, God put evil in the world for us to overcome. Awfully sorry, people have all sorts of views on this. I disagree. God is the ultimate boss. He was, he is, he will be. I've got lined up, I woke up, and I wake up at this time of day, I need sort of mental stimulation. From the Royal Institute, a chap called David Tong, discussing quantum fields, the whole of the universe, of which we're only 5%, the matter, this, the table, right? That's matter. Are these quantum field things, okay, which are either dead simple to understand or mega complicated, depending on your perspective. So there's 95% dark energy and dark matter. That's just for starters. Hubble Space Telescope, look out there, there are thousands of millions of galaxies with millions of stars, like our sun, or bigger or smaller. Just imagine the unimaginable amount of energy in the universe. What happened before the Big Bang is the obvious question. What will happen afterwards? In 100,000 million years, etc., etc. We have our allotted span for 4 years and 10, 70 years. Well, I'm knocking up to the back end of that one. I think we've done. Oh, God. I do perspire easily, actually. Just as an aside, I had my COVID jab yesterday. I've been holding back, I'm afraid. I come from a medical background and did start my training to be a medical doctor. And I was just wary about the whole thing. But I think here in England, or Britain, we've got whatever the figure is now, but 30 million first jabs and 12 million second jabs and so on. I had one called it's the Oxford one, the AstraZeneca. And actually, touch wood, I don't seem to be having any side effects yet. But it's at least 12 hours on now. It's 12 o'clock, so it's actually 15 hours later. Right, I mean, that's it. Evil is there for us to overcome. And then, instead of being innocent children in the Garden of Eden, we come to a closer knowledge of God. So Christ came into the world 2,000 years ago. He chose his 12 disciples, who then became apostles. Disciple is from the Latin root disceo, I learned. Apostle is from the Greek root, I go out. So first Christ taught them, the 12, and there was another one chosen. So Judas, of course, betrayed Christ. And then they chose another disciple. So there remained 12. It's in the beginning of Acts about that. And then there were 72, I think I said 72,000, that's elsewhere. Christ sent out first 12 and then 72 to go in pairs and prepare in the villages and so on in the Holy Land, Israel, Palestine, whatever, for his coming in physical form. But then, you see, Christ imparted all this knowledge of God to, initially, his 12, and then instead of being, as it were, innocent children, in the garden, as children are, innocent and wide-eyed and so on, we grow through suffering, I'm afraid. It seems to be a sine qua non into a deeper, more beautiful knowledge of God. That's it. Amen. Through suffering. So we have to have suffering to bring us to God. So in that light, you see, my mother always used to say this to me: philosophers envy those who suffer, which is curious, quite frankly. I mean, who wants suffering? I mean, no one wants suffering, do they? Many people aspire, don't they? I gather it's a sign of a healthy constitution. I was breastfed. My mother was a maternity sister, so I think that's possibly why I've had no reaction to the COVID-19 jab. I've got medical conditions, but my sort of body is still basically a good one. A bit creaky and whatever. Come on, suffering, what is the suffering? Right, for us to overcome. Now, once you can see the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and then overcoming them, that's paraphrasing Shakespeare, as a blessing, you see. Now, you don't self-inflict pain. That's an entirely different matter. That's masochism. So I don't go in for that at all if I can possibly help it. I hate being cold, so I love a beautiful big log fire, which I can't have here, obviously. It's just my sinuses too. I'm definitely not got COVID, and shouldn't even get it now. I don't meet people anyway. I live a monastic life. I live alone, for heaven's sake, with my squirrels and birds and spiders and whatever. Right, that's it. You see, and once you can see that, if God actually gives you challenges, shall we say, it's a blessing, because he's saying, come on, there's more to you than just the you know now. I'm sort of paraphrasing here, and I'm definitely not God. But the logic is this: here is such and such a suffering. Now, you as a human being can either work on through it with my love, God's love supporting you, strengthening you, giving you the courage to go on, and then you'll find out things you wouldn't have known without the suffering, you see. That's the nub of the matter. If you just cruise through your life, all hunky-dory, everything fine, material stuff, family, you never experience the sort of deeper knowledge of God. Amen. Right, I think that's it. I might return to this actually, because it's not just, a quick, simple matter. Amen.